Hey everybody, it's Rick Uzzi here with Tech Tuesday, and today with me is Pete Olivia. We're going to be talking about TruVision. We'll be back in just a second. Hey, thanks for joining us again here with Pete Olivia. And today we want to talk a little bit about TruVision, which is our diagnostics tool for DOCSIS and then also GPON. Today we'll be looking at a DOCSIS screen, and a screen specifically designed for call center agents or others that are trying to help out individual subscribers. And Pete, when we originally designed this screen, it was meant to be something that we'd provide a lot of really helpful information on one screen, where people could, diagnose things with a particular subscriber, some of the things going on in the modem, as well as maybe even on the port. So why don't we go ahead and dive into that? Let me go ahead and bring that up here.
So I can add a little bit in there as well, is that, well, it does help CSRs. It also can be really helpful for field techs too, to quickly pull up a device. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just a CSR, which is great for CSR. That could maybe help direct a field technician to where they need to go. But let's just say, here's a for example screen. We got a call about a customer. They pull up they either put in their last name or their MAC address or whatever identifying info that gets them to the screen.
Even the phone number or the street address.
It could be a number of things. And then when you get into ONT serial numbers and things like that. But if you look at, say we pulled this screen up here, what am I looking for? Obviously anything, we color code just about everything. Green being good, yellow being, hey, there might be a problem, red being, hey, this is probably an area you look. And in this screen in particular, if you look, the first thing that stuck out to me was I started looking at the signal quality section right here, and you can see the transmit level on both. We see both upstream channels. They're both 55. They're screaming. They're high. Unless you're in an FDX type plant, which that's on the bleeding edge. But unless you're in a FDX plant, you're not going to scream that high. So I'm really red on the transmit. That tells me the modems are really screaming for some reason. They're transmitting really high. And why is that? Because the receive levels are low. At the CMTS, you can see the receive levels are low. And so the CMTS is telling the modem, hey, jack up your signal to make up for it. And it also translates into, I've got low SNR. Now, not horrible, but we're definitely infringing upon the lower levels, and if you were to go into a 3.1 world, you're going to have lower QAM modulation orders. Of course, these are SD QAMs; they're not OFDMs or OFDMAs, but you can definitely see that there's a challenge there.
Let me say also, though, just as you're watching this, that this is our demo or trial instance of this. So we've got fake names and addresses in here to protect the innocent, so to speak. And then also, it's possible, I don't know if it's any of these, but I think we may have tweaked some of these numbers so that maybe sometimes they show up as red or yellow. I don't know if it's any of these or not. But.
Yeah, sometimes on the alert levels, just to make things go red, in a 3-foot plant, you're not going to necessarily have a lot of reds.
Right. Yeah.
So sometimes we tweak the levels, but these are for real. I mean, this
is a real cable plant.
Yeah, you don't want your transmit to be that high necessarily. It's just going to drive your plant more, and you're not going to have as good a quality of signal and plant levels as you want because you've got a section screaming. So back to this, you can see on the upstream side that we're transmitting high, we're receiving low, signal to noise ratio is a little low. We're not seeing any uncorrectables yet at a channel level, but also on the downstream side, you can see even from the CMTS down to the modem, you've got low levels, right? We're yellow on 3 of them. And you're red on another 4, and then you definitely the signal and noise levels there aren't as low, and you're kind of hanging in there. But I've seen in scenarios where when you get into this state, as the plant over time, as the plant gets worse, you start seeing individual channels drop. Your SNR will drop to 0 on some of these channels. They won't be offline, but they start getting into a partial state, and so you'll see here. And say these SNRs will be 0, you probably start seeing a percentage of upstream code errors on that channel going down. I was looking at a device earlier today that had that exact pattern where a number of the channels, it was bonded across 16 channels, but a number of the channels had high, uncorrectable code word error percentages, and were getting 0 SNR, and it looked like an ingress problem on that spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But the modem's still online, so you wouldn't necessarily have a call. Customers just getting a bad experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that you hate is you don't see unless you have a tool like TruVision, you don't know. They're online and everything's happy, but you don't know they're having a problem except by us telling you and pointing you here. And at a summary level on a different video when we do it, you'll see how to get to these guys that are having a problem from a high level.
Mm-hmm.
But staying on this guy, we see upstream problems, we see downstream problems, and then when you come down to the map, you can see other subscribers in the same, probably on the same node. These are all these guys are on the same node, and they're on the same street. And you can see there's a pattern of reds and yellows on the street. I see two guys that are red up here, but I see a bunch at the end of the street here. It might be as it's getting further away, or there's some problem in that area, that those subscribers are being affected that much more. So here's an example of, I've got a whole street problem on the node. It probably at the street level. And if I was to zoom out and go to the node, I probably see a lot more customers on here. It's hard to do it in this trial because it's fake data, and sometimes the node isn't on the node.
The addresses are not,
Right.
Yeah.
But that's basically how I would go into that. Other things you could look at is you can look down at, this guy has 2 different ports. You can look at statistics of the port. Am I seeing problems across the whole node or the channel? Everybody's online, right? Like I said, we're not really seeing outages. We're seeing degradation of service, and you can see bandwidth is not a problem. Average SNR is okay, but you can definitely see we're starting to see code word error problems, right? And this is the first channel. You can switch to the next channel, and this one doesn't have any uncorrectable code words. It's a little bit better. But that's interesting to me is that this guy actually is worse on this channel than the other one. But we're definitely seeing a problem in the node. And I would probably at this point say, hey, I've got a pattern. If I start clicking around to these other guys in the neighborhood, they probably show similar patterns.
Right. And this is a nice feature because as a call center rep, maybe you could look, let's say that their signal quality and everything looked fine, but they look down at this modem port status and they see that there's some problems there. Then they go, well, this is probably not this subscriber. It's probably more widespread customers that are on this channel.
Right.
Right.
And what kind of struck me was here. This is at the channel level, the high. You're seeing uncorrectables starting to come in up there. You just don't want code word errors, uncorrectables in particular.
You can drill in on that channel to look at some charts on that, right?
Yeah, you can pull up. You can actually pull up the channel. We can click it if you want and go there, and it'll pull up over time. And so, actually, here's an example. You'll see. Look, you can see on this screen, they hit a dip where they had a bunch of correctable errors. Look, your SNR dropped. You can see a correlation there. We didn't really see anybody. We didn't really see a major change in online offline or anybody in RF land dropping. Nobody really dropped offline, but you're seeing a degradation of signal is a quality issue. So say you have a bunch of people coming home to watch Netflix, or am I allowed to say Netflix?
And as well as Hulu, as well as
yes.
Apple's coming out with something too, sure.
Yeah, whatever they're watching. It might be streaming, whatever service they have. It could be the ISP provides an on-demand service, through a Roku or something like that, or that do that. So my point being is at that time, we're seeing correctables here. That will definitely affect voice. They'll notice it if they have a voice with the kind of blippy binary blips. If you see blue lines, uncorrectables, you're definitely having problems. Uncorrectables it has to retransmit. Anything streaming or real time would definitely have issues.
And this is a great chart for people to keep an eye on, because as they start to see uncorrectables rise, they're going to start to, uncorrectables. No, correctables first, and then that will lead to uncorrectables.
Right.
Start to rise, right.
Traditionally, you'll see correctables pop in. I know we looked at, I want to say we looked at a modem like this a couple of days ago, and over the week we saw an uncorrectable and then a correctable and then an uncorrectable. But yeah, uncorrectables are just retransmits. Correctables are, hey, I got it and I fixed it. But usually when you get that, the live real-time transmissions get garbled. Is there a trick to going back on full screen?
Oh, just right click.
Lets me go back.
Go back.
There we go. Let me see. Other things you can look at for this device, in spite of all these problems, they're not really doing they're not really flapping. So the device has been online. The The last flap was quite some time ago. It's been online since that time period. Maybe customer bounced their modem, or some people they turn the lights on and off. It comes on, but you're not seeing power adjusts or whatever the various flap metrics that you could see for a device. So in spite of these problems, the modem's not doing any flaps.
I guess in the communications panel, you can see if for some reason the customer is transmitting a lot of data. Maybe they've got a virus or something that was causing them to exceed.
Yeah, other things you can see on here, and it might even translate into I haven't been able to download all day. Well, you can see in the last 24 hours what their throughput is. If it's really, really high, like you said, we do run into people that get a virus at home, or they got a hacked device at home. It's just generating tons of traffic. Somebody's hacked on there and is using them as a server to present songs or video or whatever, and you get copyright infringements on it. But you can see that other things that are nice in this panel. If you have provisioning through us, this one doesn't have provisioning. It's kind of dummy data, but you could see what package they were assigned and then the actual service flows that are on the device, so you can compare notes. Did it really provision? So a customer might call in and say, I'm supposed to have a 100 meg package, but I can't get more, I can only get 30 megs. Well, you can look in here and see what their assigned package is and what their service flows are. So it might be that, they were assigned 100 meg, but for some reason the device never bounced, or it's only getting 30 megs. You can actually see this customer's downstream that they're like a 35 by 3. And it's probably oversubscribed. It's probably a 30 by 3 or a 30 by 2.5 or something like that, but they just oversubscribed it so that the customer has a better experience than what they need. And we'll put service flows in here. If you had voice, you'd also see, the voice service flows would show up in here as well. And again, we did the drill through before, but you can see their last 24-hour transfer rates. Did they do a download, or did they do an upload? Some of this is dummy data. Here we go. Here's an example of, we talked about uncorrectables and correctables. Here, this modem has been having problems. Lo and behold, there's a section of uncorrectables, right? It had a blip in there where it had uncorrectables on the downstream side. We happened to be looking at the upstream channel, didn't see it. On the downstream side, we have it. Right? So
good info.
This is all good info to validate. You can also, if a customer has multiple devices, this one just happens to be dummy data. We put on multiple modems on the same customer. I could hop between their different devices by clicking here and seeing what else they have. It might be a business or something of that nature.
And when we're looking, I think that's if somebody has set-top view, which is the diagnostics to look at the set-top box, that's where that appears as well, right?
Yeah, it'd be a set-top box. It could be an ONT. It could be a modem. It could be a,
something in the same location.
Yeah. DSLMO. It could be whatever. They just all show up there so that you can jump between their devices for the same subscriber.
So what do we have in the devices panel here? I know there's information in there that we can see particular devices that are connected and ping them, right?
Yeah, this one, like I said, this one just doesn't have any CPEs behind it. But you could, if this were completely real, you would see the CPEs behind it. You would see maybe it's a home gateway that they bought at the local Best Buy or whatever. Bring your own device. It could also be for the operators that provide gear. It could be their gear, but you would see what IP it was given. If they're IPv6 and if they're dual stacked, you'll see both IPs. You can always ping them to see if they're getting a response. Usually you run into challenges where you try to ping the CPE, but they have a firewall on it and they block ping for the distributed denial of service attacks, the ping of death. Most devices turn that off. But you can see what was assigned, and within the actual cable modem, you can see the various interfaces that are in there. Are they up? What's their MAC address? Were they assigned an IP? This one has a bunch of different devices, and we by default show that all are up. If you check here, you can see the ones that are disabled or that are inactive. This one actually has 27 interfaces in it of some sort, logical or physical, but we only show the ones that are real. And usually you'll find that the top one is the main one. Here's the modem's info, and here's the interfaces in there. This one has an e-router in it. So
okay. Anything else on this screen?
Like I said, we will based on package, flag red, yellow, and green for throughput.
Yeah.
It'll stick out kind of like these do.
Right.
I just don't have the assigned package here, but that's another thing that you can look at. Instantly you come to the screen. Anything red or yellow should draw your eyes.
Yeah. And
green is good.
And obviously status, I think we show a big red offline if it's offline. So this one obviously is online, but that's one of the first things you can tell is whether the modem's online.
Right.
As you come to the screen.
And there's always the actions here. You can reset the modem. You can view the modem log. Let's see if it'll. Yeah. So here's the last. This is the modem log when it came up last time.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got that option. You can also clear it. Mm-hmm. You can it's on the other screen. You can clear the log. There's a button to clear it, and then you could reset it and let it come up again and see new messages coming up.
Right.
This one has been on here so long. I think the post install log rolled out, but it'll keep it for. I think it keeps it for 90 days or something like that.
That's something to look at. That takes a snapshot of when they installed the modem, right?
Yeah, when it first came online, it captures the RF levels. The idea being, someone put a new modem in. Mm-hmm. They, and in the middle of the night we come in and take a snapshot of new modems. And so if your technician put it in that day, you can see, hey, what were the RF levels in the past, and make sure your techs are doing their thing.
Cool. So, in the future, I'd like to talk about the Wi-Fi tab. I don't think we'll cover that today, but next week, what we're going to be talking about is the. Hang on one second here. We're going to be talking about the CMTS screen, which is kind of a wider view, or like you said, more of a plant-wide view that rolls up some of these statistics, right?
Right. So the stuff we showed today was on the device itself, an individual subscriber, and then we might want to roll out to a bigger level problem. Mm-hmm. I usually tell people start there. When come in the morning, we'll talk about that on the next video about what's on that.
Okay. So that's next week at 3:00. So join us next week. So if you like this video, go ahead and like it, and you can always subscribe to the videos and be notified whenever we are live. Just ring the little notification bell. Whenever we're live, you'll get a notification on that. So we will see you next week at 3:00 when we talk about the CMTS screen on TruVision.
All right.
We'll see you then.